President of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, author of the book A Battle for the Soul of Islam. Dr. Jasser, good to have you again. Thank you.
Oh, it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me back.
And so Trump's tone on immigration policy, the news out yesterday that he is going to remove Iraq from a forthcoming revised executive order that will still include apparently a temporary travel ban with respect to certain countries. Where are you in terms of what you're hearing from the president on this topic in the context of national security?
Well, I think, we're going to see a not too changed executive order, but one that's clear, one that engages Congress, and one that, it's sort of a bizarre time in which the rule of law, in which vetting refugees for those who really want to come here because they share our ideas is somehow extreme. It should be normal. I mean, my family escaped the dictatorship and tyranny of Syrians in the 60s because they wanted to come here to be free. They believed in the American laboratory of freedom, and that's what they wanted to come here for, and they waited and did it legally and got political asylum. So, I think it makes sense to take Iraq off. We may be deploying more troops. The president talked about defeating and decimating ISIS. I don't think you're going to be able to do that without putting in some more troops, especially into Iraq. I hope we won't put more troops in Syria. There was some hint that General Mattis was floating that idea. There's a number of reasons why we should not be fighting side by side with the Hezbollah jihadists, the Iranian jihadists, and Assadists. But, having said that, at least these 7 countries, they're governments that we can't trust. Vetting just because they don't belong to terror groups does not mean they deserve to come here, because they could be Islamists, jihadists. And we need to start having a merit-based process so that people that are religiously persecuted, politically persecuted, feel that they're welcome to come here and have a prioritization.
Well, should any countries be added to the travel ban, which actually isn't a travel ban, it's called extreme vetting? Are there any countries that were not on the list of 7 that should be added?
I don't think at the first step they shouldn't, but I will tell you absolutely in the next 6 to 12 months, some countries that we consider our allies, which I've always said are sort of like the firefighters, but also the arsonists in this war, like Saudi Arabia, like Pakistan, and other countries that are cauldrons of radical Islam, some of the Gulf states. While they might be with us day to day in the short term, we could get rid of ISIS in 6 to 12 months, but in 3-4 years, you're going to get another radical Islamic group, be it Jabhat al-Nusra or one of these militant groups. And the source of those ideologies are Saudi Arabia's Wahhabism, Qatar's Islamism, the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, and sort of global Islamic movements that are political Islamists, and countries that have those ideologies fomenting deeply within millions of their countries. Those are folks, why should we accept, for example, Chinese communists or Russian Putinists who are dictatorial in their mindset? Those folks also, I hope, extreme vetting would not allow them in. So I think we need to get back to what, in every war we fought, we welcomed those who shared our values, that wanted to be free, but we said, hold on, it's not a right to come here, especially if you don't believe in our type of system.
When you saw President's speech on Tuesday night, and he addressed the widow of Navy SEAL Ryan Owens in the gallery, and Republicans stood and applauded, and there was this extended applause and this kind of this very poignant moment that the nation participated in. But not everybody in the nation, because Muslim congressman from Minnesota, Keith Ellison, recently off his defeat for DNC chairman, but I guess he's been deputized by Tom Perez. He didn't want to stand, didn't want to acknowledge. How did you take that moment where the nation saw Keith Ellison sitting with his resting angry face in the context of a president of the United States honoring the widow of a fallen soldier, as a veteran yourself?
Well, Dan, I'm glad you asked me that. I want people to know, not only as an American, as a naval officer who took care, as a physician, I took care of SEALs and so many other of our heroes, and as a Muslim, I'm beyond offended. Our antagonists on the left, as on the right, we need to find those issues, especially our son and daughters fighting for our freedom and our liberty, Find those issues that rise above partisanship. And the day that every issue, even as deep as the wife of a hero who gave his life just a few months ago to protect us, should be something we all stand and applaud, we all cheer, and realize that this is why we're free. This is why our Constitution means something. That, yes, we might have our differences with who's in the White House and his agenda. I mean, listen, I'm a conservative. I didn't agree with everything President Trump said. But we are rational, patriotic enough to know that we won't let the identity politics be used. And Ellison is all about identity politics. He's racialized being Muslim. And by the way, the left did that. They're making the horrendous claim that this was a political prop, when in fact they're the ones who paraded Muslims various Muslims into that chamber during the speech to say that they were, the party of Muslims, when in fact we are not a race. We're a diverse idea that shouldn't be used. They used it as a prop, when in fact this was something that should rally Americans. And most did. Even Van Jones was critical of what the left did in response to the acknowledgement of this hero.
Well, how many Muslim American Republicans are there out there?
I think there's more than people would believe. It's not as many as I'd like to say. I think that the numbers show that we're probably about 10 to 20% of American Muslims. But I'll remind you, Bush in 2000 received 60% of the Muslim votes. So it shifts quite a bit, because currently our Muslim community politically is dominated by identity groups like the Council on American Islamic Relations and the Muslim Public Affairs Council that are Islamist. The New York Times in the past 2 weeks has run 3 op-eds about how horrible it would be to declare the Muslim Brotherhood a terror group, and how they just ran an op-ed 3 days ago from a guy in prison who's the spokesperson for the Brotherhood. So the Brotherhood ideology has dominated our community from the Islamic group. So it has shifted Muslims into feeling the sense of siege. So therefore, they're not voting based on conservative values of family values, democracy, freedom, etc. They're voting based on sort of the fear that the Islamic groups are putting into our community. And I think you could see a shift back towards conservatism with better leadership in our Muslim community.
And that better leadership comes in part in the form of Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, veteran, and the author of the new book, A Battle for the Soul of Islam. Dr. Jasser, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
AM 560, The Answer.